Hi guys, Martin here coming to you with my final reveal and full build video for the Monogram 148 Hawker Typhoon Mk.1b bubble top version. This is my first entry into the Spiffy Tiffy Buddy Build that's being hosted by myself, and from here on I'm going to go on and do the FX 1/24 scale. So what do I think of this as a kit? This is a original tooling from 1967. It's engraved on the outside of one of the wings, Revell 1967, copyright incorporated, so you have to sand that off. But as a kit, it's actually a decent representation of a Hawker Typhoon. Looks pretty accurate. It's got raised panel lines though, raised features, but they don't bother me. I just pre-shade them and then I do a post-shade highlight on them to make those features stand out. Any problems with the kit? The only problems I had were when the fuselage shafts were put together. I had a gap down the back end near the vertical stabilizer, and I had a gap on the underside as well. And then where the wings mate underneath the fuselage, where the back edge of the wing assembly mates the fuselage at the bottom, there was a big gap there that I needed to fill. And other than that, it all went together okay. The cockpit's a bit sparse, but you don't see a lot of it once the seat's in place and the instrument panel and the steering column. When you sit your pilot in, you don't see much in there, so I wasn't too concerned about that. I scratch built seat belts for this out of wine bottle foil. I scratch built the whip aerial and the underside UHF aerial, and when I put the rockets on I started doing my photographs for this video, and then I realised I should have scratch built some fuse wires out the back of the rockets, so I did those, and just to dress it up a little bit. Otherwise the kit comes without the two antennas and without fuse cables and without seat belts, so all those things were scratch built. Propeller's nice. Propeller's just a push fit that rotates, stays on nicely because it's tapered spindle onto a tapered hole inside the spinner. But yeah, I enjoyed building it, but I was rushing it because I want to get on with the 1/24 scale, the big one that I've been waiting to do for over 2 years. So I'll be starting that next week. But until then guys, I hope you enjoy this full build and final reveal video. Tally-ho, chocks away. So let's take a look at the box and what's inside. That's the lid, showing some nice artwork. It's a two-part box, upper lid, lower case. This was a gift from Freddie Fernando Duarte, a kit he sent to me 2 years ago. So thanks Freddy. There's the fuselage halves and the wing halves. And this is a view showing the detail inside the wheel wells, and as you can see there, the raised engraving on the bottom right side of that wing. That's a couple of little sprues with the horizontal stabilizers, the rockets, the steering column and the pitot tube. This sprue has the wheels, the propellers, wheel bay doors, pilot and instrument panel. And there's the instrument panel and pilot close up to show you the detail. Here's a clear sprue. It's got 2, 4, 6 parts on. They were thick and wavy. The decals were nice though. They're from 2010, not the original 1967 ones. The instruction booklet is 10 pages, black and white. That's pages 1 and 10, front and back pages. Pages 2 and 3 show the cockpit assembly into the fuselage halves being assembled together, and the wing assembly being assembled. And then pages 4 and 5 show the wing to fuselage assembly, the wheel assemblies and the rocket assemblies all being put in place. Pages 8 and 9 show the light lenses being put in place, the propeller, the horizontal stabilizer and the canopy and windshield, and then the 2 painting options. So before build I always give everything a warm wash, soapy water, let it dry, and then start on sub assemblies, get parts together. So I've assembled the wings There they are, assembled together, taped and held in place to the set. I then got everything on to cocktail sticks, cleaned everything with isopropyl alcohol and then primed it with black primer. I also primed the inside of the fuselage halves and inside the wheelbase, then detailed the inside of the fuselage and the cockpit parts, and I gave them a flat clear coat. That's inside the starboard fuselage half, and that's inside the port side fuselage half. And here are the details for the cockpit and the air cooler there. I airbrushed aluminum on the wheel bay doors and inside the wheel wells and onto the wheels and the oleos. I detail painted the propeller. I then made some seat belts out of wine foil for the seat and painted those seat belts. I then finished detailing the instrument panel and took a photograph of it next to a quarter to give you an idea of scale. And then it was on to fitting the cockpit into the starboard side fuselage half. That was a rear view, that's a front view. And then I stuck the two fuselage halves together, and then it was just the floor with the steering column had to be glued in place. And there you can see the steering column from the top side. Next was glue the fuselage onto the wing assembly and then put the horizontal stabilizers in place. I then taped that assembly and let it set. Once it's set, I discovered that I had a gap where the wings join onto the fuselage on the bottom side, and on the upper side fuselage near the vertical stabilizer there was a gap there too. I then got everything on cocktail sticks, detailed, painted those rockets and everything else, and gave everything a gloss clear coat. I then temporarily located the wheel bay doors with putter, and they act as masks as well for the wheel wells. I then painted the port side light red area and the green side starboard light before putting light lenses in. The landing lights had big through holes, so they needed some scratch built walls. I then fitted the light lenses, but before fitting the landing lenses I painted the inside silver, let that dry, and then masked the windshield, glued that in place, masked the sliding canopy and temporarily located that with putter. I then used liquid mask for the light lenses. I then used some damp tissue to mask the air intake, and then washed everything down with isopropyl alcohol to make it ready for some grey Stynel Res primer. That's the upper side primed, that's the lower side primed. And when that was dry it was on to pre-shading all the raised areas using black and white mix to produce a dark grey. I then went on to airbrushing the underside XF83 medium sea grey, mixed some white with it to tone it down and made some highlights, as you can see there. And then after that I taped the areas off for painting the white bands for the D-Day stripes. There they are, painted. And then it was on to tape in for the black stripes. So everything's taped there ready. I then toned down some black with white, airbrushed the stripes, removed the masking tape, and then gave everything a gloss clear coat, including the oleo struts. Next it was on to making masks for the camouflage patterns, so taking the painting instructions, I measured the length of the model, the length of the side view, and I could get a scale factor. Using that scale factor I went to my photocopier and enlarged the views, did the same for the plan view, and then using those enlarged views I could cut out the camo patterns, glue them down to the model. I started off with a dark grey, leaving the areas for the light grey to be painted, and that's what I did, airbrush the XF82 ocean grey. But then I got lazy, I couldn't be bothered to mask over that previously painted grey, so I just brush painted the green on.
I then masked the wingtip leading edges for the yellow stripes, brush painted those. I then painted the trim tabs red, top and bottom. And then I brushed the painted the exhaust with a steel, and then everything was sealed in with a gloss clear coat. Then after some research I discovered that this particular aircraft, TPQ, did not have a black spinner as indicated in the instructions. It was red, so using some red toned down with a bit of black, I repainted that. And it was on to decals. Got the decals ready with water, the setting solution and all the bits I need. I put the decals on the underside and top side first, then moved to the port side fuselage off and the starboard side fuselage off to complete the decals, and then took a photograph of everything together there, show you the progress. And the last thing to paint was the pilot, so I painted him, gave him a gloss clear coat, and then all he needed was a wash at the weathering stage. And this is just a few views of him from different angles to show what he looked like. Tiny, a little bit eye straining, but he looks reasonable, I thought. So the first thing I did in the weathering stage was add some chipping using some chrome silver, Tamiya chrome silver. I did that all over the aircraft, different places. And then it was on to doing washes, and I started off by mixing black and white, thinned it with odorless mineral spirits, and then it created like a clay wash which I applied all over the aircraft and all over the peripheral parts. Allowed that to dry for about an hour, then rubbed the excess off, leaving on a amount that I like the look of. Then I mixed an acrylic black and brown wash, toned down with water, and highlighted the raised panel details, put some streaks on. There's the black streaks from the oil cooler. And then I mixed some Vallejo light earth with some dark earth and did some mud staining around the wheel wells and around the rear wheel area. And then did some washes on all the peripheral parts. And then all that was left was to seal everything in with the final matte clear coat. I then took the masking off the windshield and off the sliding canopy. Mixed some black and brown paint, thinned down with 80% thinners, and lightly airbrushed exhaust stains on both sides of the fuselage. I then removed the wheel bay doors and gave a wash inside the wheel wells and wash on the wheel bay doors themselves, the wheels and the oleo struts. I then gave a semi-gloss clear coat to the aluminum parts inside the wheel wells, and it was on to final assembly. First thing to be assembled was the main undercarriage plus the doors, followed by the rear wheel. I then assembled the wheels onto those struts, so she was now standing on her legs. I then put the propeller into place, followed by gluing 4 rockets under each wing. And then I put the pilot in his seat and glued the sliding canopy in the open position. The last things to do was to scratch build a couple of aerials, the upper aerial and the lower UHF aerial, glue those into place, then scratch build the fuse wires for the 8 rockets, glue those into place, and that's it for this build. So it's now on to the final reveal, guys. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the build. So until the next one, Talio chocks away.